I ranked every ability in Pokemon from worst to best, and we are finishing the list off in this video. We covered spots 310 to 215 in part 1 and 214 to 111 in part 2, so watch those first if you haven't. Now as we edge into the top 100, I'm hoping to edge you as we rank the top abilities in Pokemon. We finished the good tier in the last video, now we're moving up to the great tier. All of these abilities are really useful to have and elevate the user's viability. In spot 110, starting off the great tier, is a higher ranked doubles ability in Friend Guard. This support ability reduces the damage done to the user's allies by 25%. This ability is exclusive to frail Pokemon, mostly not fully evolved, but despite this, it's good enough to be used competitively. Support Clefairy, Mousehold, and the rare Vivillon can redirect and lessen damage their heavy hitters take. It has one of the best ratios of usefulness to quality of Pokemon who get access, and will probably be heavily spammed if seen on actually good fully evolved Pokemon. In spot 109, Poison Touch smacks your bitch up. This ability gives a 30% chance to poison the target when using a contact move. This is more in your control, as you will load up on contact moves to spread status. Physical attackers like the Muck forms, Sneasler, and Grafaiai love this, as the latter can get off fast U-turns on a bad matchup to potentially spread poison. Poison Jab from Muck has a more likely chance to poison than not, while getting off good damage. And don't even get me started on Claw Sneasler. It is a high value ability that can gain you status even on bad matchups, making switch-ins nervous to come in. In spot 108, we have Refrigerate. It's another one that might be a tad bit high, but it turns your normal moves into ice type attacks and gives them a 1.2 times boosty boost. It helped at least give Mega Glalie some play in middle to high tiers, being able to hit incredibly hard with Return, Double Edge, and ice type Explosion. It's a great ability all things considered, but on Pokemon with terrible typings, it is hurt a little. In spot 107, the ability Neuroforce strikes. This ability is exclusive to Ultra Necrozma, so I'm not exactly sure if we will see it again, but it boosts the power of super effective moves by 1.25 times. This is a larger boost than an Expert Belt, and with its already bonkers attacking stats, can secure KOs against the defensive behemoths of the Ubers tier. It's a great ability, but not crazy enough to crack the top 100 for me. Spot 106 is the ability Thermal Exchange, and it's a sweet ability given to the Excalibur line. This gives the user an immunity to burn, but also a +1 attack if hit by a fire type attack. While it isn't an immunity to attacks, on a base 145 attack Mon, not being able to Will-O-Wisp it while actually boosting it if attempted is pretty nutty. Bax has been banned to Ubers, where it doesn't see as much usage now, but has seen some heavy VGC play, and being able to not worry about burn and feeding off fire attacks makes it even more threatening than its base stats show. Spot 105 is another new ability in Toxic Chain. This is essentially just a better Poison Touch. Toxic Chain has a 30% chance to badly poison the target's Pokemon with any damaging move. So you get the better long-term status condition in Toxic, and you don't even need to make contact to get the status. This allows Pheasantipede to use Beat Up to have a really strong chance to poison. Monkey Dory loves its Fake Out and U-turn combo to stay safe while spreading status, and Okidogi can be an absolute menace in singles with its Drain Punch and Knockoff, getting the Toxic and potentially just outstalling you with its Bulk Upset. We have 3 of the same abilities in succeeding order next. In spot 104, it's Filter, spot 103, Solid Rock, and 102, Prism Armor. These abilities all share the effect of reducing damage taken from super effective hits by 25%. This is amazing for Pokemons like Mega Aggron, Rhyperior, and the Necrozma forms. You can easily run weakness policy sets and just tank those super effective hits much better in general. Prism Armor, besides being on the best overall Mons, also cannot be ignored by moves or abilities, making it objectively better as well. Just missing the top 100, spot 101 goes to Analytic. It gives you a bus and 30% boost to your moves if you move last or your opponent switches. It's good on Porygon 2, Starmie, Magnezone that has no one to trap, and of course the behemoth Beheeyem. This is often paired with Life Orb, and the boost punishes switches and can often just be applied most turns on the slower users. Is it a bit too high looking back at it? Maybe, but I just finished reordering like 20 abilities that were too high and renumbering them over and over again, and the script is a pain in the ass, so it's staying here. Damn, we made it to the top 100, and my eyes are burning from staring at my screen. This honor goes to the ability Berserk, which editing this series is making me. This ability activates when the user is hit below half HP and gives it a special attack boost. This can be activated multiple times and is such a useful ability for Galarian Moltres and Drampa on Trick Room teams. Double Dance Moltres loves getting hit down for a boost and popping its Citrus Berry in an attempt to get another boost with its solid bulk, or just going weakness policy aiming for a +3 sweep. Inside the top 100, let's go. Spot 99 goes to Stakeout, a very underrated ability in my opinion, but not on this list. This would be top tier in Ranbats as Gumshoes and Mabostive just take names with it. If the target is switching out, Stakeout will double the power of the move used. This oftentimes just results in destroying with a non-resisted hit. It has only been included on underwhelming Pokemon, but a couple of them have solid attack stats and show the potential this ability really has. In spot 98 is Stamina, something my hands are proving short of almost 20,000 words into this script. It used to be exclusive to the Mudsdale line, but now our Chaladon also has access. It raises a user's defense stat every single time they're hit by an attack. Doesn't matter if it's physical or special, you're getting that boost. It not only can make these Pokemon near impossible to beat on the physical side, but it also boosts their body press passively, giving them damage boost from getting hit as well. It helps a lot that this ability is on Bulkymons, allowing it to show off what it can do competitively. On to spot 97 is another great ability on a pretty bad mod in Comatose. Comatose treats the users like they're asleep without actually having the status condition. This blocks any other status from being inflicted and lets Kamala use moves like Sleep Talk, while also being affected by moves like Dream Eater and the ability Bad Dreams. I had to bump this one down a bit from my original ranking because I'm not sure entirely how good it could be. Kamala is a sole user and can only do so much as a mono-normal type with pretty ass stats. Status immunity is amazing, and this ability can't even be affected by Mold Breaker or any other shenanigans. Top 96, and we have the ability Flash Fire here. Flash Fire is a great ability that provides a user an immunity to all fire type moves. In addition to this, it also gives a user a 50% power boost to their own fire type moves. It can be activated from attacking moves or status moves like Will-O-Wisp. It's great to boost the user's stab and outshines a lot of the user's other abilities. Unfortunately, the boosts don't stack per hit as you're capped at 50%, but it's still loved by mons like Heatran, Typhlosion, Chandelure, and Houndoom. Spot 95, you ask? It's Imposter. Imposter allows Ditto to bypass the turn it needed to use Transform by essentially using it upon switching. It copies the opponent's species, moves, stat changes, abilities, and base stats besides HP. This transforms Ditto from a shitmon into a premier revenge killer that can be used in any singles tier as its power level scales to the power level of the tier. It's a popular mon and ability to see at the beginning of a generation since the shaping metas are unpredictable. Imposter can just be good for scouting or copying a useful ability in addition to being able to revenge kill with a Scarf. For spot 94, I have our first terrain summoning ability, Misty Surge. This is a great ability seen on Tapu Fini and Galarian Weezing. It just doesn't have as much going for it as the other terrains. Misty Terrain prevents status from being inflicted to all grounded Pokemon on both sides of the field, as well as having the power of Dragon type moves used against grounded Pokemon and some other small effects. It doesn't raise the power of moves of a certain type like other terrains. It can be just as beneficial for your opponent as yourself. Obviously, you wouldn't build a status or dragon-based team with a Misty Terrain user, but it's still a really good support ability. I just can't put it as high as the other, better terrains we will see in a bit. In spot 93, the ability Thick Fat finally arrives. This is a very useful ability as it halves the damage from fire and ice type attacks by 50%. This is essentially gaining 2 extra resistances and is a beautiful addition to mons like Mega Venusaur that would normally be weak to both of those types. Snorlax, the Mamoswine line, Miltank, Appleton, Oinkoloin. Pretty much most mons love having it. If you don't have another ability you're running for a specific reason, Thickfat is just free damage reduction to a couple of the more common attacking types. Spot 92 goes to the Power of Friendship. This is Battle Bond, an ability I would have ranked higher if it didn't get changed. When Greninja grabs a KO, it also grabs an attack, special attack, and speed boost. This is like Moxie, Grimnay, and speed boost in one turn. Unfortunately, it only activates once per battle, so you have to commit to your sweep. It does provide a larger boost than the previous Battle Bond, which changed Greninja's form, increasing its base stats, but that was at least permanent, even if a bit weaker, and also powered up Water Shuriken. Nonetheless, it's still a great ability that is often used over Protean. You might be shocked by number 91 as we get to Transistor. This signature ability of Regieleki gives a 1.3 times boost to its electric type attacks. It was so strong that it had to be nerfed from 1.5 times. If you didn't have a ground type on your team, you would get shredded by boosted Thunderbolts and Volt Switches from the combination of Stab, plus boosting items, plus Transistor. 1.3 times definitely makes it more manageable, but it's still an incredibly powerful mon that got banned to Ubers. Mostly due to actually getting coverage with Terra Blast, but still. In Spot 90 is our last speed boosting weather ability in Swift Swim. This is the highest of the four thanks to the amazing users that can abuse rain. The mostly water types can take advantage of their stab being boosted and strike first and hard. It historically let underwhelming mons punch way above their weight class, and rain in general is just a strong team style you can fit most Pokemon with this ability on. Rain teams will often run multiple Swift Swimmers. Some powerhouses include Mega Swampert, Kingdra, Floatzel, Barraskewda, Basculegion, and Ludicolo. But wherever rain is present in a tier, you sure as hell know you'll be facing some threatening sweepers, as even the weaker Swift Swimmers can thrive. Except these guys, of course. In Spot 89 is Dragon's Maw. This is Regidrago's signature ability and provides the same effect as Transistor. Except it didn't get nerfed, so it still grants a 1.5 times boost. This is pretty deadly with the move Dragon Energy, which is already incredibly powerful. With Tailwind support and a Dragon Fang, Regidrago can just body teams that don't have Fairy and Steel type swaps. This can be useful on physical sets as well, with Dragon Dance Regidrago being a solid pick in lower singles tiers as a sweeper that doesn't need high HP to function. Top 88 here, starting with Illusion. Illusion changes the user's appearance to the last non-fainted Pokemon in the party. It is seen on both Zoroark lines and can play incredible mind games. Without Team Preview, I feel this ability would be banned, but even with Team Preview, you are always wondering if the mon in front of you is a Zoroark or not. There are ways to tell, like hazard damage, or if an ability does or doesn't activate, but a well-played Illusion can grab you a huge advantage in a match. Spot 87 sees another great ability on mostly bad mons in Shield Dust. This ability blocks additional effects from moves used on the user, so no Fake Out Flinch, no Scald Burns, no Salt Cure or trapping move chip damage, no Fire Lash defense drops. They even made a held item Covert Cloak that gives the same effect, and it is decently used. It mostly sees use on Rabombi, who can reliably get sticky webs up in Ubers and OU with Shield Dust in its high speed stat. It can do this in doubles as well, avoiding Fake Out Flinch to set up webs and screens. It would definitely see more use if it was on more than these weaker winged Pokemon, but for the most part they actually take advantage of better abilities that will be coming up later this video. Spot 86 is one of the better offensive abilities in Sharpness. This ability powers up slicing moves by 50% and is incredibly powerful on its users. Every user benefits and loves the insane boost to their stab attacks like Sacred Sword, Psycho Cut, Razor Shell, Ceaseless Edge, Stone Axe, and X Scissor. Most of these Pokemon have access to a handful of boosted moves as well, basically giving them their choice of coverage that is essentially stab boosted. It is the preferred ability that bumps all these mons' viability up at least a tier. Above Sharpness in Spot 85 is Unburden. This was a close one, but I think Unburden just gives its users so much sweeping potential that it just edges out Sharpness. Unburden doubles the user's speed stat when their item is used or lost. This is usually self-procced with consumables like citrus berry, white herb, normal gem, or stat boosting berries. Belly drum slurpuff, white herb, or terrain seed sneasel, hitmonlee, and halucha are some examples of terrifying mons to come up against that often only need to get one free turn of setup to demolish your team. In spot 84 is the ability Skill Link. This is an ability that allows multi-strike moves to always hit the maximum amount of times. It is used on pretty much every Pokemon with access, but most associated with Cloyster for sure. Moves like Icicle Spear, Rock Blast, Bullet Seed, and Tail Slap all become essentially 125 base power moves that can bypass Sturdy, Focus Sash, and break subs and continue hitting. It also makes it so other moves like Triple Axle, Triple Kick, and Population Bomb would only take one accuracy check to hit the maximum amount of times. This is a crazy good ability to have, and you see a ton of Pokemon running the poor man's version and loaded dice to mimic a fraction of its power. In spot 83, our first trapping ability arrives in Magnet Pull. This ability is able to trap steel types, preventing them from escaping. It is synonymous with the Magnezone line, but also gave mons like Alolan Golem a niche, being able to trap and eliminate annoying steel types like Heatran, Skarmory, and Ferrothorn. There are teams that would dedicate a role to beating a steel type that otherwise walls their sweepers, which makes this ability very important competitively. In spot 82 is the ability Sturdy. Sturdy prevents the user from being knocked out with one hit if at full HP. It also provides an immunity to those ever so common Oko moves. This is pretty much like having a free Focus Sash that can activate multiple times and can't be knocked off. It allowed a lot of otherwise useless mons competitively to have a role, as they can have a guaranteed turn to set up hazards and pop a Custad Berry to explode or set more hazards. It's a very common ability that pretty much every Pokemon enjoys having. It even allows level 1 Pokemon to be used with sturdy Shell Bell shenanigans. In spot 81, we see Mind's Eye, the signature ability of Blood Moon Ursaluna. This is sort of a combination of the abilities Keen Eye and Scrappy, as it ignores the opponent's evasion and prevents his accuracy from being lowered. In addition to this, the user can hit ghost type attacks with fighting and normal type moves. It's pretty handy on Ursaluna, as it primarily likes spamming its strong normal stab attacks. The Keen Eye effect doesn't really add too much, and it doesn't block Intimidate like Scrappy, but it doesn't need to for its lone user. On to spot 80 is Moxie. It's just a way better Chilling Neigh, as it can be used on actual sweepers. This ability lets Pokemon like Dragonance Gyarados, Salamence, and Scrafty snowball boosts along with Scarf Heracross and Crocodile. A recent user in Quackaville is also super hard to deal with, combining Aqua Step KOs with Moxie boosts to gain speed and attack together. A Moxie user with speed can easily sweep a slightly weakened team, making this a great ability, earning its relatively high spot. In spot 79 is another immunity ability in Water Absorb. This is like the previously covered Volt Absorb, but much more important of an immunity. Water Spam is a lot more common, and being able to blank moves like Scald, Origin Pulse, and Water Spout is huge. The user will not only be immune to water, they will heal 25% of their max HP if hit by a water type move. It's a really good ability and was a must-have when Dracovish was running around. Spot 78 was a tough decision, but here is Dry Skin. It is very, very similar to Water Absorb, as it provides a water immunity and heals 25% when hit with a water type attack. But I like it a little bit more because it's synergy on rain teams. While Dry Skin does give the user a slight weakness to fire, taking 25% more damage, and does 1/8 damage per turn in the sun, it has the effect of healing the user by 1/8 of their max HP if it's raining. Obviously, you'd want to stay out of the sun with these mons, and ideally go in the rain, so Dry Skin can provide a nice immunity and recovery equivalent to 2 rounds of lefties per turn. In spot 77, we get to the No Ability. This is Neutralizing Gas. This turns off all non-form changing abilities when the user is active. It can severely hamper your opponent's Pokemon who rely on their ability to function well. It can also allow you to use Pokemon like Slaking and Regigigas, who are actually the GOATs when their abilities are turned off. This can also let you bypass common abilities like Magic Bounce, Poison Heal, Immunity abilities, Magic Guard, even Wonder Guard. It is a lot better in doubles as you can build your team around it. On to 76 is the ability Grim Neigh. It's a signature ability of Spectrier and is essentially special Moxie and Chilling Neigh. When Glastrier gets a KO, it raises its special attack by 1 stage. This is an incredible ability for the horse as it has amazing stats to utilize this to the max. It usually just needs 1 KO to snowball into a sweep. For a mon with very poor coverage to be banned to Ubers, it needs a bunch of things going for it, and this ability is definitely a huge reason it got out of hand. In spot 75 and spot 74 are a couple redirecting immunity abilities in Lightning Rod and Storm Drain. These two abilities redirect electric and water moves respectively. They give a full immunity and boost the user's special attack by 1 stage when activated. This is pretty cracked and are great support abilities in singles and doubles. You can protect your allies who are weak to these moves and turn the defensive aspects into offensive ones. You can also self-proc them with moves like Surf and Discharge to just give your ally a boost. These are seen very commonly in all formats and are some of the best immunity abilities. Into the top 75, and at spot 73, we have the great ability Scrappy. Scrappy allows a user to bypass Ghost's immunities to normal and fighting type moves, and as of Generation 8, it also provides an immunity to Intimidate, which is kind of a big deal. This ability is literally amazing on every user as it is exclusive to mons who have access to normal or fighting stab. You don't have to worry about getting walled by ghost types, and in some scenarios, you actually pick up more super effective hits on ghost types who have a secondary type weak to fighting, like Aegislash and Frostlass. It was already a great ability, but the Intimidate immunity just pushes it way up the list and makes it useful in a lot more matchups where ghost types might not be present. The abilities keep getting better in spot 72 as we see Tablets of Ruin. Wo-Chien is very impressed with its ability ranking, but it is deserved. Tablets of Ruin decreases the attack stat of all active Pokemon besides the user by 25%. This is great for Wo-Chien and its teammates as it essentially gives them both 25% more physical bulk. It stands above abilities like Friend Guard and Filter because it's likely to just be more useful overall and is great in singles and doubles. The only downside is you'll have to consider the ability lowering your own allies' attack, so you want to partner up special attackers with Wo-Chien. In spot 71, our second rune ability shows up in Vessel of Ruin. This is Ting Lu's ability that lowers all other Pokemon's special attack by 25%. I put this a bit higher than Tablets as there aren't as many good ways to counter strong special attackers. We have Burn and Intimidate for physical mons, but special attackers really just get to be chilling around spamming attacks. Ting Lu can help your team shrug off special hits easier without just relying on Assault Vest, and has more staying power than Wo-Chien with its slightly better defensive typing and all around better bulk. In spot 70, I have As One, Ice Rider. These abilities are listed separately, so they get their own spots. This ability combines the ability Unnerve and Glastrier's Chilling Neigh together on the very powerful Calyrex Ice Rider. It prevents the opposition from eating held berries, while also having that Moxie effect of boosting the user's attack stat 1 stage every time it gets a KO. Sporting way better stats, moves, and competitive viability, this ability becomes infinitely more useful. Its strong spread move, Glacial Lance, can easily pick up KOs, especially in Trick Room, and boost its already deadly attack even higher. Finally, we got here, spot 69. It is going to go to the Premier Boosting ability in Beast Boost. Well, Premier in the sense that it allows you to boost your most proficient stat when gaining a KO. Beast Boost lets you essentially have a variation of Moxie and Grim Neigh, but can also boost your defenses or speed. This depends on what you spec your natures, EVs, and sometimes even IVs into. It lets a lot of the Ultra Beast snowball boosts into sweeps. Kartana getting multiple attack boosts, you aren't living resisted hits at that point. You can set boost to proc on either of Pheromosa's attacking stats, choose your Celesteela boost, it's up to you. In spot 68, I have Armor Tail. It sees a big bump over its identical counterparts because it's actually usable in competitive settings. While its user Farigiraf isn't the best in singles, It's a great support mon in doubles, and a huge part is being able to block priority moves with Armor Tail. This gives team protection from priority attacks and prankster moves targeted towards them, meaning no taunting on my Trick Room from mons like Tornadus, and no stalling out turns with Fake Out. It's a premier support option, earning it a pretty high spot on this list. Now would be a good time to say that I plan to re-rank all these abilities, but in a vacuum, not considering who gets them. This will be in a few months, so leave your comments on which abilities you think should be higher or lower for that. In spot 67 is the badass ability No Guard. No Guard drops all the accuracy crap and makes it so all of the moves the user uses hit, and all moves used against the user hit as well. Even though this puts the mons on an equal playing field, the user definitely can take advantage a lot more. No Guard Pokemon like Machamp, Golurk, and Mμ-Pokepedia can spam high power, low accuracy moves without fear of missing. Dynamic Punch, Hurricane, Poltergeist, any move under 100% accuracy really loves to have the boost. Competitively, it isn't on the greatest mons, but it definitely makes all of these Pokemon a lot scarier to go up against and reliable for spamming high damage moves. In spot 66, I have the ability Fluffy. This is a great defensive ability that halves the damage taken from contact moves. This comes at the cost of taking double damage from fire type moves. It is used on all of its users to make them incredibly tanky on the physical side, as a good amount of those attacks make contact. It can pretty much neutralize the fighting weakness on Beware and Double, and let Houndstone tank knockoffs with ease. Fluffy allows the users to check Pokemon they likely would have no chance to and set up boosts. It's not on the greatest roster of mons, but it gives them a lot more usefulness and viability than most other abilities would. In spot 65, I have the other as one, this time the Shadow Rider version. Copy paste the description of Calyrex Ice Rider's ability, but boost the user's special attack instead. This is on a way faster user with a similarly strong spread attack that can't be intimidated or slowed down with burn. This results in a mon that has gotten banned to the anything goes tier. The saving grace against Calyrex is the limited coverage, as you can usually check it with a dark or normal type, and doubles this thing is absolutely menacing, being able to also do crazy spread damage to normal types on size spam teams with expanding force. In spot 64, another 8 ability arrives in Pixelate. This ability turns the user's normal type attacks into fairy attacks and gives a 1.2 times boost to them. It is mostly associated with Sylveon, but Mega Gardevoir and Mega Altaria loved having it too. Pixelate grants these Pokemon a huge boost to their fairy stabs. Special attackers Sylveon and Mega Gardevoir upgrade the already great Moonblast to 108 base power Hyper Voice that deals spread damage in doubles and goes past substitutes. It is usually the only attack Sylveon needs to run. Mega Altaria, on the other hand, really appreciates not having to use the underwhelming 90 power, 90 accuracy Play Rough as its stab option, and can instead opt for a 122 base power return that doesn't miss, or even an 84 base power Facade that doubles to 168 of status while setting up. It can also opt for the Hyper Voice set just as easily. In spot 63 is a great immunity ability in Levitate. Levitate is such a useful ability to have on every user. It provides a ground immunity and immunity to other grounded effects. Even a mon like Carnivine, who would otherwise resist ground type attacks, can appreciate not taking spikes, toxic spikes, or sticky webs upon entry. In team building, you don't need to stack flying type weaknesses, as you can check ground type Pokemon with Bronzong or Flygon without worrying about a rock type move coming at you right after. It is even better for the myriad of Pokemon that otherwise would be weak to ground, which is such a great and common offensive typing. Spot 62 and Spot 61 go to Dark Aura and Fairy Aura respectively. These are the signature abilities of box art legendaries Yveltal and Xerneas respectively. These abilities are pretty bonkers as they boost the power of Dark and Fairy type attacks by about 33%. This applies to the whole field, so your allies or opposing Pokemon can take advantage of as well. But they give these Pokemon who already have insane attacking stats a boost to their stabs that is more than Life Orb is crazy. It makes it so you really only need to click Moonblast as an attack if you are Xerneas. Yveltal gets crazy boosted knockoffs, Dark Pulses, and Sucker Punches, it likes to boost even further with Life Orb. Up to spot 60, I have Soul Heart. While this on paper might look similar to Grim Neigh and a worse as one, it is in fact not.
Nope.
Soul Heart raises a user's special attack by 1 stage every time a Pokemon on the field faints. This lets its user Magearna grab special attack boosts way more efficiently. A mon can feint to anything, not needing the requirements of KOing them itself. This also works from allies fainting, so you could even grab a +3 from a crazy explosion strategy where you take out your mon and both opponents. It snowballs way too effectively, and among other reasons, has Magearna banned to the Ubers tier. Past the top 60, in spot 59 is Triage. Triage gives healing moves +3 priority and is only available on Comfey. While Comfey isn't exactly a defining competitive Pokemon, it allows it to see some niche usage because of its tremendous ability. Stab Draining Kiss will outspeed your opponents 99% of the time, and you can also use moves like Giga Drain and Symphysis to further heal before your opponent moves. A big one that helps Comfey in doubles is Floral Healing, which can heal its ally by 50% of their max HP. Having this as a priority move makes Comfey a lot more reliable, as you can almost always guarantee good value. We'll keep her going in spot 58 with Compound Eyes. This ability increases the accuracy of the user's moves by 1.3 times the original. It is a saving grace of the otherwise useless Butterfly Pokemon. Compound Eyes allows most of its users to reliably run moves like Sleep Powder, which is boosted to 95.5% accurate. This also allows the butterflies with terrible stats to set up quiver dances and actually become threatening. Galvantula loves being to run the normally shaky 70% Thunder, as it gets boosted to a solid 91%. This gives more power and a higher para chance. The same goes with the Hurricane users, who gain a more reliable stab than running Air Slash. It is on terribly weak mons, but can actually make them pretty useful. Rounding out the Great tier in spot 57 is the ability Guts. Guts boosts the user's attack by 50% if they are inflicted by a status. This can even include sleep, but mostly is induced by the toxic or flame orbs. This ability is normally the go-to for every Pokemon who has access. You can slap on a flame orb, which Guts ignores the attack drop from, and become incredibly strong at the cost of about 6% of your max HP per turn. This also gives access to an incredibly strong Facade, which will be 140 base power and can be used for stab or just a crazy strong neutral hit. Guts turns otherwise non-threatening Pokemon into threats, and already threatening Pokemon into problems. With new tools like Trailblaze becoming available on a lot of Guts users, it is even more threatening, as the main crux of most of the users is having a low speed stat. So if anything, I'd say this ability is getting even more useful. We made it to the second highest tier, the Amazing tier. These are all amazing abilities Pokemon can see used solely from having. And if you're still watching, haven't liked, haven't subscribed, I don't know what else I can do to please you. By the way, leave a comment on which ability was in the spot of your favorite number, if that falls under 310 of course. Starting at 56 is the ability Simple. So Simple is a great ability stuck on terrible Pokemon, and that is a good thing. Simple will double the user's stat changes, positive or negative. It can be devastating to give a Simplemon a free setup turn, as something like Swoobat will essentially gain a Gen 1 Amnesia boost in one turn with Calm Mind. You can also look at Bibarel, who can Swords Dance and reach +4 in one turn, and then try to clean with Priority Quick Attack and Aqua Jet. Now imagine this on any Pokemon who is not completely ass stat-wise. I know I have been docking or boosting some abilities boost on their users, but this ability genuinely makes these users threatening in a lower tier setting with these pathetic base stats. I refuse to call it nothing short of an amazing ability. Spot 55 goes to the ability Unseen Fist. This is one I was forced by my buddy Magnus and the VGC community to put higher. It allows contact moves to hit for protection and is exclusive to their Urshifu line. In singles, this ability will rarely come into play, as protection moves are hardly seen, and switching is usually how you would answer Urshifu. But I understand how broken this is in doubles to eliminate Protect as an option for your opponents. I don't think I would have this even in the top 150 if just including singles, so the amazing effect it provides in doubles, shooting it this high, is a testament on how different these metas can be. Above Unseen Fist, and Spot 54 is the top form changing ability in Stance Change. This ability is exclusive to Aegislash and allows it to change in between a shield and blade form. This can be toggled with the move King Shield to go from blade to shield form, and any attacking move to go back into blade form. Aegislash will always start in the shield form where it has tremendous defenses and low attacking stats. When attacking, the great defenses will swap to its offenses and vice versa. This allows it to pretty much min-max its own stats depending on what it's doing. It becomes incredibly tanky if you want it to be, and incredibly powerful when you need to go on the offensive. With King Shield also being a crack protection move, you can lower the foe's attack if they try to take advantage of your low bulk and blade form. And as a slower Pokemon, you can usually take a hit in shield form and then transform to blade form after, letting you have your cake and eat it too. On to Spot 53 is the ability Tough Claws. Tough Claws is a premier damage boosting ability. It is essentially better Iron Fist as it boosts the power of all contact moves by 30%. There are no catches or downsides. This is huge for the Megas who already have outrageous attack stats to boost their damage further. Pokemon like Lycanroc and Berserker also love a nice boost to their offensive arsenal. It powers up a good amount of priority like Mega Metagross's Bullet Punch, Lycanroc's Accelerock, and Berserker's Fake Out. Just an amazing ability with no real catch. Spot 52 is the ability Supreme Overlord. This is a newer one seen on King Gambit. It is responsible for the King Gambit Sucker Punch reverse sweep means. For every ally that has fainted, King Gambit's attacks will have their power increased by 10%. Even at one ally fainted, that's a free muscle band. At free fainted, you have a life orb boost. And if you save Gambit in the back, you have a choice band boost on all your moves, plus any item you're running. From base 135 attack, those sucker punches are going to destroy weakened teams, and Iron Heads will crush the resist. Just outside the top 50, Spot 51 belongs to Snow Warning. It was a tough choice, but the weather summoning abilities deserve this high placement. Whole teams function around them. Snow Warning summons snow upon entry for 5 turns. Without this ability, snow would likely never be seen, as bypassing the turn and move slot to set it makes it infinitely more viable. Alolan Ninetales provides the best user, as its speed can help it set up Aurora Veil to give the team incredible bulk before the opponents can attack. It definitely has the least viability of weathers in singles and the worst overall competitive users, but at least with Alolan Ninetales, Snow has seen more of an impact in both singles and doubles, and the buff to defense for ice types now is definitely a bonus. Into the top 50 is Water Bubble. This ability is on the Araquanid line and feels like you have 3 abilities going on at once. Water Bubble for 1 prevents the user from being burned, 2 halves the damage taken from fire type attacks, and 3 doubles the power of your water type attacks. This is a whole lot of stuff going on. You get Water Veil, Heat Proof, and then the double power. While Araquanid is quite lacking in the offensive department, Water Bubble gives it great damage when using its Water Stab. Being able to absorb burns and fire attacks helps a lot as well. It is usually relegated to setting up webs and trying to get some liquidation damage off, but having this ability definitely lets it see some good lower tier and niche doubles usage. In Spot 49, I have the ability Multiscale, and in Spot 48, the ability Shadow Shield. These very limited abilities half the damage taken from attacking moves when the user is at full HP. These mons can set up easier with this reduced damage and even recover back into Multiscale and Shadow Shield range as it activates multiple times. You can proc a weakness policy while being tanky enough to set up through it and sweep. Shadow Shield is a bit higher as it's also on a great mon and can't be ignored by Mold Breaker abilities or the move Sunsteel Strike. In Spot 47, I have Terra Shell. This is exclusive to Terrapagos in its terrestrial form. It is similar to Multiscale, but instead of having damage, it turns attacks used against it into not very effective hits. It also retains these effects throughout the duration of multi-strike moves, which is something it has over Multiscale. It is a great ability, but unfortunately you're usually only able to proc once unless you have some sort of team healing or want to use rest, as Terrapagos has no other recovery options. But mons like Dragonite and Lunala would definitely prefer this effect. It wouldn't help against already resisted hits, but turning a ×4 effective ice move on D-Knight to 0.5 effective, and same thing for Lunala on Ghost and Dark moves, is enough reason to say this ability is slightly better. even if you don't get that nice weakness policy proc we were talking about. Spot 46 is another new one, and well-baked body. This is what water compaction could have been. Well-baked body gives its canine companion an immunity to fire type moves, but in addition to this, it gives a +2 to its defense stat. This is an insane ability. You get an iron defense for taking a fire type move and take no damage. Being on a fairy type as well, which normally don't like being against fire types, is big. It actually helped give Dachshund a small niche in Ubers, as it checked Koraidon pretty well, being a good answer to both its stabs and blanking its sun boosted Flare Blitz. Spot 45 sees our highest type immunity ability in Earth Eater. This is an amazing ability that is also particularly good on its lone user or form. Earth Eater provides an immunity to ground type moves, and if hit by one, well, you just heal this worm by 25% of its max HP. As a pure steel type, you are taking away one of the most common ways to hit it hard. This lets you check tons of ground type attackers, as you will almost always resist their coverage moves. It can facilitate your own setup easy as well. It doesn't give the spikes or sticky web immunity that Levitate does, but at least you get the positive terrain effects as consolation. On to spot 44, I have the ability Ice Scales. Yeah, it's on a booty mon, but this ability is just fantastic. Ice Scales halves the damage taken from special attacks. It's just a shame the only mon with access is an Ice Bugmon with unimpressive bulk and low speed. Despite this, Frostmoth can find setup opportunities through this ability and Quiver Dance up. It might not be as iconic as a lot of the previous abilities, but it is a damn good one to have. You may have already guessed what's just above Ice Scales in spot 43. Yep, it's Fur Coat. This ability doubles the user's defense stat, making it essentially huge power for your defense. This does a lot more than just doubling these mons' base 60 defense to 120. By doubling the raw stat, max investment in defense gives Persian and Furfrou a slightly higher effective defense stat than Bastiodon. It did allow Alolan Persian some VGC play in Generation 7 as support. Just sadly, like Ice Scales, it was given to mons who really don't have much going for them in the base stat department, but it's still an amazing ability that I can't really put outside this tier. Moving up to 42, I have Tinted Lens here. Tinted Lens causes any not very effective move to do double damage. So it essentially makes 2 times resist do regular damage, and 4 times resist turn into 2 times resist. Its power is shown on Pokemon like Low-Kicks, who have very limited switch-ins to its powerful first impression. Venomoth had a few good competitive runs thanks to this ability in combination with Quiver Dance, and even Pokemon like Yanmega and Sigilyph, who have access to other crazy abilities we'll see in a bit, will run Tinted Lens sets to wall break. It's an ability that doesn't have the most users, especially ones with great stats, but still has a huge impact. In spot 41 is a very unique ability, Toxic Debris. This is exclusive to the Glimmora line, and when hit by a physical attack, will set up toxic spikes. It's crazy they introduced a passive hazard setting ability like this. Glimmora in singles is a premier hazard setter thanks to this, and also having access to Stealth Rock, which it can set up on turn 1. You would rarely want to set up T-Spikes in doubles either, as it usually isn't worth it, but getting them up passively on a mon that has other things going for it as well, yes please. It puts a timer on teams that are lacking a poison type to absorb them, which is great in any meta. You steer the match in your favor, and all you have to do is get hit by a physical move. On to spot 40, and I'm going bananas. Guerrilla Tactics is next as the signature ability of Galarian Darmanitan. This ability was tailor-made for Darm, as it gives the user a 1.5 times boost to its attack stat, but locks it into the first move it uses until it switches. Sure, you can't switch up your move, but you were just going to either throw a Choice Guard for ban on a Darm anyways. These effects do indeed stack, so you can give your Darm a double Choice Band effect. At base 140 attack, Darm pretty much nukes everything with its great coverage. Getting a mono ice type onto Ubers is not an easy task, but this ability did it with the sheer amount of power it brings. Spot 39 will go to Electric Surge. This ability summons electric terrain upon entry for 5 turns. It is seen on Tapu Koko and Pinjurchin, allowing you to boost electric type moves 1.3 times and prevent sleep. You can build your team around this terrain, and has been pretty good at enabling sweepers like Hawlucha to use Unburden with an electric seed to set up easily. You can activate Surge Surfer, counter sleep users, and get off really strong rising voltages as it will be doubled in power under the terrain. It's a super strong ability even if just using it on the mons who have access, as you are essentially giving your stab an extra 1.3 times boost. In spot 38, I have one of the all-time goated abilities in Sheer Force. Sheer Force essentially gives your moves a 1.3 times power boost if they have secondary effects, and also negates a secondary effect. If you want an in-depth explanation, I have a video dedicated to it. It is abused by the Nidos, Darmanitan, Landorus, Mega Camerupt, Feraligatr, and many more. It can be paired with a Life Orb and actually negates the Life Orb damage as well. It gives you crazy damage output, and working on special and physical moves gives it more versatility than the similar Tough Claws. Spot 37 might be another controversial placement, but way up here is the ability Technician. Technician is a fan favorite ability, I feel. It boosts the power of moves base 60 or lower by 1.5 times. This has turned many weaker Pokemon into offensive forces and stronger Pokemon into behemoths. Pokemon like Ambipom, Persian, and Hitmontop love a Technician boosted Fake Out, but there are tons of great moves boosted by Technician. Most famously, Scizor has an incredibly strong Bullet Punch, which can clean up teams while negating Scizor's low speed stat. Cypher gets crazy Flying Stab and Dual Wing Beat. Mousehold gets a 300 base power move essentially, with Technician boosting its Population Bomb to crazy levels of power. Multi-strike moves see a big boost with Cinccino's Tail Slap, Bullet Seed, Triple Axle, and Rock Blast being boosted, as well as Breloom getting Stab on its Bullet Seed to break past Stubs, Sashes, and Sturdy, while using Mach Punch as a strong priority cleaner. There are so many mons that benefit a lot from having this boost, I had to stick it up here for its impact. On to spot 36 is Aerialate. This was a weird one to rank since we've only seen it on a couple megas and it hasn't been around for a couple generations. Mega Pinsir and Salamence make excellent use of it as it turns their normal type moves into stab flying attacks and give a 1.2 times boost to them. This is huge for these physically attacking flying types, as this type is famously lacking good physical moves if you aren't a bird. Stab 122 base power Frustration, or the even stronger Double Edge. You could use Facade, Body Slam, and Quick Attack. These were among the boosted moves they would run. After Swords Dance from Pinsir, or Dragon Dance from Salamence, it can just be GG, as these fast sweepers could tear through teams. We're going to cover spots 35 and 34 together. These spots will go to Libero and Protean. They will change the user's type to correspond with the first move they use per switch in. These abilities would have been a bit higher if they weren't nerfed to work only once per switch. They are still amazing tools to have, as you can gain stab on whatever coverage move you choose along with their type's properties. All of these users besides Kecleon receive U-turn, which they can pivot with while getting off good damage. The 1.5 times boost to a move of their choosing is huge though, and definitely grants them way more KO ranges than they would have otherwise. On to spot 33, I actually have Moody here. This is one of the toughest abilities to rank, because it's an RNG based one, but it can turn the crappiest mons into gods. Moody raises one of the user's stats by 2 stages and lowers another stat by 1 stage. This results in a net positive 1 stat boost per use. This ability had to be nerfed to not include accuracy or evasion changes because it allowed Bidoof to sweep in Ubers. This is still allowed in doubles and can be seen on Smeargle and the occasional Scovillain, but it also has the potential to be negative as you're relying on getting the desired boost and can suffer a nasty speed drop and useless attack boost, so a lot of Smeargle won't want to risk Moody nowadays. It definitely loses points for its nerf, downside, distribution, and lack of much competitive usage lately. Alright, spots 32 and 31 are the last 2 Ruin abilities. We have Beads of Ruin and Sword of Ruin. These are pretty much tied for me. Beads of Ruin is on Chi-Yu and lowers the special attack of all other active Pokemon by 25%, while Sword of Ruin does the same thing but for defense. This lets these 2 hard-hitting sweepers just blow past other Pokemon with their sheer power, as you will often see damage boosting options on top of this. Just check out these Chi-Yu calcs. And then also remember Chanpao has dual stab priority and crazy speed to boot. These mons were banned at Ubers for being too broken in the OU meta. Chi-Yu just needs to click buttons at this point, as it doesn't care about your resist, while Chanpao has all the tools it needs to eliminate you. It was a long debate, but in spot 30, I have Psychic Surge. This narrowly beats out the rune abilities since it facilitates a whole team playstyle very well. Psychic Surge summons Psychic Terrain upon entry and lasts 5 turns. In singles and doubles, Psychic Terrain teams can be deadly. This will power up Psychic moves by 1.3 times while protecting grounded users from priority moves. It's the reason an otherwise useless Pokemon in Indeedee is so prominent competitively. Hanging out in Trick Room with Hatterene, spamming Expanding Force with a team, what's better than this? You block priority moves from revenge killing or stalling your Trick Room, you can activate the same unburden combos with Psychic Seed. It is all around a great archetype that has proven its worth. Our last terrain comes in at 29 with Grassy Surge. This ability summons Grassy Terrain for 5 turns upon entry, and it was a really close call with this in Psychic Surge. I feel like Grassy Terrain just frees your team up to play in more directions than Psychic Surge. The main user in Rillaboom was so stupidly strong, gaining crazy good priority in Grassy Glide, they essentially had to double nerf it. The chip recovery is also really nice for your mons, combined with weakening the power of some ground moves, particularly Earthquake, which allows you to bring more ground weak mons. I feel overall in singles and doubles, Grassy Surge is the best terrain. I can understand arguments for Psychic Terrain being better, but it also just depends on which options are available to abuse it. Spot 28 is a defensive ability in Unaware. Unaware ignores the opponent's stat changes. It is a pretty simple ability, but damn is it effective. The opposing Pokemon can set up the +6 attack, and the damage output would be the same against an Unaware mon if they were neutral. It is the ultimate setup denier, making derpy Pokemon like Quagsire and Dondozo great in singles. Skeledirge walls and Ubers, while Clodsire can be a great OU tank. It also ignores negative stat drops, so you have to be aware of that. But it is mostly positive and can really save your ass against those Shell Smashers, Quiver Dancers, and Dragon Dance menaces. In spot 27, we have Adaptability. These are getting really hard to rank. I'm flip-flopping all over which abilities I think are better. But Adaptability is really powerful and increases the user's stab from 1.5 times to 2 times. So your 100 base power stab attack normally would go to 150. With Adaptability, it would shoot up to 200. Mega Beedrill would spam super powerful U-turns. Crawdon is, Crawdon. That thing is a menace. Mega Lucario, Porygon Z, Basculegion, Feebas for crying out loud. These powerhouses turn their stabs into nukes most of the time and are very hard to switch into. And don't think I forgot about you, Dragology. You a real one too. And spot 26 is the highest form changing ability in Disguise. I just realized I think I said that about stance change, so I was lying there. Disguise is exclusive to Mimikyu and makes it what it is. It allows Mimikyu to essentially block the first hit it takes. The Disguise gets busted and Mimikyu loses 1/8 of its max HP. Something they had to add as a nerf. A sort of Pikachu clone being able to see actual competitive usage. Sure, it has a real solid typing that helps, but Disguise gives it essentially a free turn to wall as powerful hit as you can throw at it. It is a great insurance check to keep your Disguise if things get ugly. You can pretty much guarantee a Trick Room with this and its immunity to Fake Out. You can set up a Swords Dance, Will-O-Wisp that annoying physical sweeper, and even just force something out with Red Card. I feel none of this would be viable without Mimikyu's Disguise, and it easily makes it a top tier ability in the game. Spot 25 I originally had higher, but I really don't want to give the mon the satisfaction. Here I have Delta Stream, the ability belonging to Mega Rayquaza. It's a bullshit ability on a bullshit Pokemon. It changes the weather to strong winds, which eliminates the weaknesses of flying types while active. This is obviously an amazing ability for Mega Ray, as it eliminates its rock weakness and lessens its ice weakness to ×2 instead of ×4. This helps ally flying Pokemon in doubles, but the effects end upon switching out, which means Mega Ray usually only uses this ability for itself. Into the top 25, and spot 24 is our second weather summoning ability in Sandstream. This will summon Sandstorm for 5 turns upon entry. It contributed to a Pokemon like Tyranitar being a massive mainstay for so long in OU, and Hippowdon being so well respected. It even gave a super slow mono rock type and Gigalith a taste of competitive success. This ability isn't just good for the users, either giving them the Spadef boost or just for the solid chip damage against the opponents, but it is also great for sand teams. You activate abilities we covered like Sand Rush, Sand Force, and Sandville, which makes for a great team structure. I would say overall Sand is the third best weather. It definitely saw its time to shine over the generations, and this ability is the catalyst for that. Now is when I feel we're getting into the absolutely elite abilities with spot 23, and it's the moment you've all been waiting for. Where is he gonna rank it? Where is he gonna rank it? Oh no, it should be higher. This is where I have Intimidate. I originally had it a good chunk lower, around 40 I think, but the internet convinced me to put it higher. But this is as high as it gets for me. Intimidate, as you know, lowers any opposing foe's attack stat upon entry. It's an amazing ability, but it is definitely a lot better in doubles. In singles, it is great to have for sure, but not nearly as centralizing. A lot of Intimidate users even just prefer other abilities because switching is so common. You'll see a lot of Moxie over it, as these are common abilities to have together, but its role in doubles does get it this really high spot. With all the Intimidate counterplay added to other abilities and items, it definitely isn't as overpowered as people think it is, but it definitely is influential. Spot 22 and above Intimidate, I have Prankster. Prankster grants priority to status moves for the user. Since Gen 7, Dark types are immune to Prankster moves targeted against them, but this is perhaps the greatest support ability of all time. In singles and doubles, Prankster single-handedly makes every Pokemon with access useful to some degree. Look at the users that would otherwise be terrible. Sableye, Liepard, Murkrow, Klefki, Whimsicott. One can even argue Grimmsnarl and Mega Banette wouldn't be a fraction as useful without Prankster. You can do so much with it, and it just adds so much value, it has to be in the top 25 for me. In spot 21, I have the ability Drought. Similar to Sandstream, except you're summoning Sun for 5 turns. Overall, this ability has better competitive users and abusers. Sun boosting the stab of fire types who want to be around is a massive bonus. You have the variety with Chlorophyll users who can now fire off solar beams at will, along with Weather Ball coverage. It brought Torkoal out of the dumps to high usage, and don't get me started on the beast that is Megazard Y. It's the second best basic weather in my opinion. But what's better than Drought? Starting our top 20, I have Drizzle. Drizzle activates Rain for 5 turns upon switch in. This follows up nicely as Rain is the premier weather throughout competitive history. Rain teams have so much going for them, from boosting water moves, protecting your defensive mons from fire type attacks, activating so many amazing Swift Swim users, you name it. It can allow many different mons to flourish with its properties. Electric and flying mons get to run Thunder and Hurricane, and you can even activate other support abilities like Hydration and Dry Skin. You can see what it did for a mon like Pelipper, instantly bringing it from PU to OU and seeing tons of doubles action. Just a top tier ability in the game. Top 20 time, and in spot 19, I have Primordial Sea in this position. I kind of pondered if I should rank the primal summoning abilities higher or lower, and as of making this, I'm still not sure. Primordial Sea summons Heavy Rain that cannot be switched for other basic weathers. It completely nullifies any fire type moves that are tempted at making them fizzle out, but otherwise functions just like Rain. It is strictly better for its user Primal Groudon and doesn't go away unless the user is off the field. The only problem is that this ability can only be used for team support in doubles formats, as it fades immediately, so you can't use it in singles to promote your Swift Swimmers or any other Rain synergy. That was my dilemma, but for the main user, it is a lot better, so I have it in a higher spot. In spot 18, I have to put Hadron Engine. It is signature to Miraidon, and in Gen 9, you know we had to introduce previous abilities, but better. When sent out, Miraidon summons Electric Terrain. This is already pretty busted, but from there, it also boosts its special attack by about 33%. So this gives it a 1.3 times boost to its stab electric moves, and then that additional boost on top. It also activates Quark Drive for any of those users chilling around. The only saving grace is both of its stabs have immunities, but even then you still have crazy strong overheat coverage for your checks. It is a busted mon with a busted ability. On to spot 17, I have Orichalcum Pulse. This is a signature ability of Koraidon. And while you can see it isn't quite as busted competitively as Miraidon, I think overall the ability is better. Orichalcum Pulse has the same properties as Drought, summoning Sun for 5 turns upon entry. but the user also gains a 33% attack boost in the harsh sunlight. Definitely what a Pokemon with base 135 attack and speed needs, but I digress. We're getting there with a Hail Mary in spot 16. Here I have Serene Grace. Yeah, taking a break from these weather and terrain setting abilities to go to another busted ability. Serene Grace doubles the odds of secondary chances. It is a genuinely crazy ability and maybe the most annoying to face in the game. This ability is what causes mons like Ironhead Jirachi and Air/Togekiss to exist. And how about Shaman Sky, having an 80% chance to lower your Spadef 2 stages while hitting you for 120 base power stab, and then proceeding to flinch your whole team down. Admittedly, this ability is only as strong as the moveset of the mon it's on, so mons like Blissey rarely use it, unless going for that 20% freeze on Ice Beam, but it makes even the most underwhelming of mons troublesome. The Dunsparce line is particularly known to nab 60% body slam paralysis, and can even just flinch you down with a combo of headbutt and bite. Other things like Paraflinch with Serene Grace feels like a losing battle every time you face it, being a part of what makes this ability so high. Above Serene Grace, in spot 15, I have Contrary. This ability reverses stat changes, so any raises results in decrease, and any decreases become boosts. This is an incredible ability its users abuse. Superior most notably uses Leaf Storm, a base 130 stab attack that lowers your special attack by 2 stages as a downside, to actually raise its special attack 2 stages every use. It is really the only attack it needs most of the time, and can easily Leaf Storm its way to +6. Then we have the rest of the mons pretty much who love to spam superpower, but gives them not only a strong 120 base power fighting hit, but also raises their attack and defense 1 stage afterwards. There are other great applications for this ability too, from gaining a speed raise coming in on Sticky Webs, an evasion boost on Defog, speed boost on Icy Wind, and an attack boost on Intimidate. It is an elite ability that is kept to less bulky and powerful mons for a reason. Past the top 15 in spot 14, and our top weather ability, Desolate Land, Stand Up, Take a Bow. This ability straight up makes Primal Groudon the top dog in its last competitive showing in Ubers. It sets extremely harsh sunlight upon switching. This has the same effect that Drought has, except it fizzles out all water type moves attempted. Considering Primal Groudon becomes a fire and ground type, this neutralizes otherwise 4 times weakness to water. It allows it to just come in on would-be counters, Primal and regular Kyogre, for free. Kyogre can't use water attacks, it's Thunder. Sure, it can chip away a bit with Ice Beam, but it's neutral and can't even freeze. Primal Groudon in turn gets momentum to set up rocks or Swords Dance and abuse its crazy attacking stats. It can provide amazing double support activating Chlorophyll, Solar Power, powering up allies' fire type moves, and protecting them from water attacks. In my opinion, this is the strongest weather ability in the game. Lucky number 13 is the ability Poison Heal. This ability heals the user by 1/8 of their max HP per turn when poisoned. On paper, it might not seem like it should be top 15, but that is double the amount of recovery than leftovers, and with a Toxic Orb equipped, you can activate this ability just staying in for a turn. You use up your item slot, but it is essentially a double lefties that gives you an immunity from being hit by another status. This is a staple for Gliscor, keeping it as a mainstay in OU with its crazy longevity. Even with the removal of Roost from its arsenal, it can protect every other turn to gain massive recovery and chip away the opposition. You also get a boosted facade out of it, and is always a frightening choice competitively. Spot 12 nearing the top of our amazing tier is another ability that deals with stat boosting. This time, it's Speed Boost. This ability passively buffs your speed 1 stage every full turn the user is out. It is the reason why we have some Pokemon in Ubers that probably shouldn't be there. Going first in Pokemon is very beneficial, and being able to passively outspeed everything using a Protect or just finding a free turn is pretty nutty. This ability is most notable on Blaziken in its Mega, helping it to become the first starter ever to crack the Ubers tier. Its Bafra accumulates a speed boost and passively powers up its stored power alongside a Calm Mind, and got banned to Ubers as well. It is just helpful on each user. Scolipede has a niche in Ubers being able to set up more hazards thanks to becoming increasingly fast, being able to get a quick endeavor off before going down. Sharpedo would purposely not Mega Evolve to preserve speed boost before becoming a menacing sweeper who outran everything. In spot 11, in topping our amazing category, we've got the magic rolling. It goes to the ability Magic Guard. Magic Guard is a crazy ability that prevents the user from taking any form of indirect damage. This includes damage from entry hazards, status like burn and toxic, weather, trapping effects, curse, salt cure, anything that doesn't directly cause damage. This increases your survivability tenfold. Not worrying about hazard chip, being able to absorb status, coming in on a ton of attacks that have the main goal of chipping you down. You also can't take self-inflicted chip from recoil moves or life orb, so it's also just an upgrade over Rockhead. Clefable, Reuniclus, Alakazam, and Sigilyph all take advantage of this boost with no consequences. It helps Alakazam guarantee its Focus Sash for a guaranteed one-hit survival. Sigilyph can Psycho Shift status from holding a Flame or Toxic Orb without feeling the effects themselves. The only reason not to use this ability is due to some of these users having more than one bonker ability in their arsenal. This is what it all comes down to. We are entering the top tier, the goated tier if you will. If you skip to this point, we just went over some amazing abilities and are now moving into the top 10. Starting us off in the top 10 is the amazing Magic Bounce. Magic Bounce reflects most status moves targeted towards the user. This importantly includes entry hazards, status inducers like Toxic, Thunderwave, and Will-O-Wisp, and even very common status moves like Encore, Taunt, Roar, and Parting Shot. It is easily the best ability on each of its users and is given to a few Megas as a beneficial ability. Mega Sableye is incredibly annoying to handle when limiting the status options against it. Pokemon like Xatu could see use in higher tiers and even Ubers thanks to bouncing back hazards from mons like Deoxys. Hatterene is very present in singles and doubles, a big part thanks to this ability. It instantly gives even frail mons like Espeon defensive value as well, and definitely just makes the user have instant viability. In spot number 9, perhaps the greatest ability with sizable distribution is Regenerator. Regenerator restores a user by 33% of their max HP every time they swap out. Doesn't matter how, but if they swap out, they get that huge amount of recovery. It's an insane ability, especially in singles where switching is a huge part of the game. You can literally build Regenerator cores that swap to another and cover each other's weaknesses without worrying about getting worn down from taking all the hits. It is a staple on Big Stall with mons like Amoonguss, Toxapex, Alomomola, Tangrowth, Tornadus, and all the slow variations being stupidly hard to break through. The amount of value it gets you is insane, and I have to include it in the top 10. In spot 8, we start our journey of busted signature abilities, this time with Parental Bond. This is Mega Kangaskhan's signature ability and turns virtually every attacking move into a 2-strike move. The first hit will do normal damage, while the second will do 25%. This was nerfed from 50% in Gen 7 due to the sheer power. Not only do you get 25% more damage, but you also stack secondary effects. So your Body Slam has 2 30% chances to paralyze, your Power Up Punch will raise your attack by 2 stages, Bite has multiple flinch chances, Rock Tomb will lower speed twice, Seismic Toss would hit for 200 HP, becoming a 2-shot machine. It is an insane ability that pushes Mega Kang to the Ubers tier and deserves its top 10 placement. In spot 7 is our first of 2 overpowered Gen 9 abilities. This goes to Purifying Salt. This ability prevents the user from being affected by any status condition. This itself is great as you become the ultimate status absorber, being able to swap in on Spore, Toxic, Bird attempts, and don't have to worry about getting frozen. But in addition to this, Purifying Salt also gives the user a resistance to Ghost type attacks. This is huge as Ghost types have been crazy good since the removal of Pursuit, and resistances aren't plenty for Ghost. It allows Guard to win matchups that shouldn't with Salt Cure and Recover to back it up, as you can't wear it down with Toxic or hacks it with Para. A slow, mono rock type being great in the OU tier is a crazy feat and is hugely thanks to this goated ability. On to spot 6, another new Gen 9 ability appears in Good as Gold. They really went crazy with the abilities this gen. Good as Gold is exclusive to Golden Go and gives it full immunity to any status moves targeted against it. This is completely busted as Golden Go becomes a de facto switch-in on so many moves. You're immune to Taunt, Encore, Disable, Trick, Leech Seed, stat lowering moves, any direct status attempts like Glare, Will-O-Wisp, and Spore. You can't be roared out. It's crazy. Combined with its natural typing, Gholdengo becomes the ultimate hazard blocker as it will stop Defog from removing hazards as well. Gholdengo is a crazy good Pokemon competitively, and perhaps it would still be good with another ability, but you have to give a ton of credit to this ability, which combined with its typing, make it such a nuisance and powerful threat to deal with. Now the top 5 abilities, you probably already figured them out by now. These are kind of the abilities you think of when tasked with the question of what the best ability is. In spots 5 and 4, I have Pure Power and Huge Power. These abilities are pretty simple. They double the user's attack stat. But if you've seen my video on how strong Huge Power Pokemon are actually, you will see these abilities power up the users more than meets the eye. With EVs in a positive nature, it allows a mon like Azumarill with base 50 attack to hit about as hard as a Pokemon with base 150 attack when tacking on Huge Power, while Pure Power will increase base Metachance power output by doubling its base 60 attack to be about equivalent to a Kyurem Black at base 170. So when you put it on a Pokemon with an actual attack stat like Mega Mawile, it essentially gains a base attack of 259, which is off the charts. They definitely made the right decision balancing these users speed-wise, as no Huge Power Pokemon has higher than 78 base speed, while Pure Power Metacham can be decently fast at 80, but is balanced by its terrible base stats. And spot number 3 is a trapping ability. This is only the second best one though in Arena Trap. Arena Trap prevents all opposing grounded Pokemon from switching, unless they are ghost types. It's been banned from most singles formats due to Dugtrio being able to come in and KO problematic Pokemon without them being able to do anything about it. Even with Dugtrio's ban, Pokemon like Diglett and Trapinch prove problematic, being specialized to remove certain threats to let others prosper. This has been allowed in Ubers, freeing Dougie up to trap ground weak Pokemon like Primal Groudon, Regirna, Necrozma Dustmane, and Eternatus. Diglett has found Little Cup success thanks to this, being able to trap annoying Pokemon, and Trapinch can fill this role as well, as it hits a lot harder, but doesn't have the speed to run and gun like the other two. But being able to get a non-RNG based ability banned in so many consecutive generations is impressive and puts Arena Trap up on the Mount Rushmore of Pokemon abilities. And spot number 2, drumroll please. I had to go with Wonder Guard. It is a tough one to place, but this is definitely up there when you think of absolutely busted abilities. It has the potential to just straight up win you games on a Pokemon hardlock to 1 HP. If you didn't know, Wonder Guard prevents all direct damage unless super effective. So Ninja's existence can just invalidate so many Pokemon that don't have a flying, rock, ghost, fire, or dark type attack to hit it with. Look at this type chart for it, 13 immunities. It's funny for a Pokemon with a 236 base stat total to be such a potential win condition. Of course you can instantly KO it with any indirect damage, so Sandstorm Chip, Leech Seed, entry hazards, Burn or Poison, and there are a few other ways around it like Mold Breaker abilities and changing its ability to something else. But in practice, you usually aren't prepping for Shedinja, and you have to literally preserve certain Pokemon that can take it out, which limits your playstyle. With the introduction to heavy duty boots, you can't just rely on hazards either, as you don't know if it's running Sash, safety goggles and doubles, or boots. Also, this is random, but pretty funny, but check out this Ninja I had in Hackmon's Cup one time. It's my all-time favorite randomly generated set. So that leaves one ability, the honor of best ability in all of Pokemon. It's going to go to Shadow Tag.
You win! Wow!
Yes, Shadow Tag is number 1. It is better Arena Trap and deserves this honor. Shadow Tag traps all Pokemon and doesn't care if they are grounded or not. The only ways out are using switching moves like U-Turn, Baton Pass, and Parting Shot, having Shadow Tag yourself, which was likely implemented to stop endless Wobbuffet battles, hold a Shed Shell, or be a Ghost type which can't be trapped. This ability gives the user such a huge advantage as they can pick their matchups and force the opponent to stay in. They can go the Gothitelle route in Ubers of lowering their stats and taunting them until they struggle, or they can take it on the offensive with a Mega Gengar, which has crazy speed and special attack to force KOs without letting the opposing checks to come in until after the damage is already done. Perish Trap strategies are viable on both of these mons, as they literally can only hope to KO the Shadow Tag user before the counter hits 0. Wobbuffet, a Pokemon who can only inflict damage from counter and Mirror Coat, uses Shadow Tag to force a Pokemon to attack them or become setup fodder with Encore. It actually allowed it to have success in the Ubers tier. Even Wynot and Gothorita, non-fully evolved Pokemon, could legitimately do work in some past gens Ubers tiers thanks to this ability. Although not amazing, it is still a feat. Shadow Tag is legit a broken ability, as you can see how useless Pokemon who have it become when they can't use it. It is the all-around GOAT in singles and doubles and tops the list of Pokemon abilities. Wow, it's finally done. Well, now I'm pointing the finger to you. Do you agree with these picks? Do you have a certain ability you think should have been way higher or lower? Give me your picks in the comment section. And once again, I'm planning on releasing these parts all together afterwards, but instead of doing a straight copy and paste, I want to factor in the community's rankings and make a revised list more in a vacuum, considering the abilities' effects themselves without distribution. So abilities that are the same like Cloud9 and Airlock would be tied, whereas Wonder Guard might actually take the top spot, and form changing abilities would not be included. If you watch this series all the way through, consider becoming a bud and hitting that sub button. I have a bunch of ways you can support the channel as well, and if you want to discuss these rankings in a more intimate setting, join the Bud Zone Discord. We have a nice growing community, and we'd love to welcome you all. Another thanks to Magnus for helping with the rankings, my lovely Boo Bud for helping with a bunch of the resources for this list, and this Mμ-Pokepedia channel for the amazing videos. You're doing God's work. Special shoutouts to my Patreon supporters as well. Love you guys. And last but not least, thanks to all the viewers who are slowly helping me live my dream of creating content I love to make. I appreciate all of you who watch the channel. We're gonna have a really good 2025. I'll catch you all in the next one, buds.